Hey there, and welcome back to the KenkoVibe podcast, your daily dose of health insights. I'm Ethan Reed.
And I'm Grace Morgan.
And today we're tackling a topic that can be a little bit, shall we say, delicate. Erectile dysfunction.
That's right, ED. It's something that affects a surprisingly large number of people. Think about it, at least 1 in 10 folks with penises will experience it at some point in their lives.
Wow, 1 in 10. That's way more common than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
So for anyone who might be unfamiliar, let's define what we're talking about when we say erectile dysfunction.
Essentially, ED is the consistent inability to get or maintain an erection that's firm enough for sex. We're not talking about the occasional off night here. This is a recurring issue that can really put a damper on someone's sex life.
Okay, so it's the consistency that makes it ED, not just a one-off thing. And I imagine there's a lot more to it than just the physical aspect.
You're absolutely right. We often think of ED as purely physical, but the mental and emotional components are huge. In fact, the mind and body are so intertwined when it comes to sexual function. Sometimes ED is entirely rooted in psychological factors. Other times it's a combination of physical and mental, and sometimes it might be stemming from an underlying medical condition.
You know, it's funny, we're often told to just relax when things aren't working right. But if it's tied to stress or anxiety, that's easier said than done.
Right.
So let's delve into some of these physical causes. What are some of the common culprits behind ED?
Well, one of the biggest ones is cardiovascular disease. Research has actually shown that men with ED are 70% more likely to have heart disease. It all comes down to blood flow.
Yeah.
When your arteries narrow or harden due to conditions like high blood pressure or high cholesterol, it restricts blood flow throughout the body, including to, well, you know where.
Makes sense. So taking care of your heart is crucial, not just for your overall health, but also for your sexual well-being. What are some other physical factors that might come into play?
Nerve damage is another major contributor. Think of it like this. The nerves are responsible for sending signals from the brain to the penis, telling it it's go time. But if those signals are disrupted, you can run into problems. Conditions like diabetes and multiple sclerosis can cause nerve damage that affects sexual function. And unfortunately, spinal cord injuries often lead to ED as well.
It's amazing how interconnected our bodies are. So we've covered heart health and nerve function. What about hormone levels? Do those play a role?
Absolutely. Testosterone, the primary male sex hormone, is essential for libido and erectile function. If testosterone levels are too low, it can definitely contribute to ED. And this is something that can be addressed with hormone therapy.
Interesting. So it's not always a straightforward issue. There can be many pieces to the puzzle. Now let's shift gears and talk about the mental and lifestyle factors you mentioned earlier. How do those come into the picture?
Well, as I said, the mind and body are deeply connected, especially when it comes to sex. Mental health plays a huge role. If you're struggling with depression, anxiety, or even just chronic stress, it can absolutely affect your sexual desire and performance.
It's like your brain is saying, hey, I'm not really in the mood right now. Too much going on.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not even a diagnosable mental health condition. It could just be everyday stress from work relationships or finances that's taking a toll. And then there's the impact of certain medications. Some antidepressants, for example, are known to have sexual side effects, including ED.
Wow, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
You're trying to address one health concern and then another one pops up. So what about lifestyle choices? Do things like diet, exercise, and smoking habits have any impact on ED?
They absolutely do. Lifestyle factors play a significant role in both preventing and managing ED. For example, research has shown a strong link between smoking and ED. Smoking damages blood vessels and restricts blood flow, making it much harder to achieve and maintain an erection.
That makes perfect sense. Smoking is bad for your heart, your lungs, and apparently your well,
Precisely. And then there's alcohol. Moderate alcohol consumption might not be a big deal, but heavy drinking can definitely contribute to ED. It can interfere with nerve signals, hormone production, and blood flow, all of which are crucial for healthy sexual function.
So everything in moderation, as with most things in life. What about exercise? Does that have a positive or negative impact?
Exercise is actually one of the best things you can do for your overall health, including your sexual health. Regular physical activity improves cardiovascular health, boosts testosterone levels, and helps manage stress, all of which can have a positive impact on ED.
So hitting the gym and ditching the cigarettes could be just what the doctor ordered. Now, we've talked about who can experience ED, anyone with a penis, really. But are there certain groups that are more prone to it than others?
While anyone can experience ED, the likelihood does increase with age. It's more common in men over 40, but that doesn't mean younger men are immune. And certain risk factors can make it more likely regardless of age. We've already talked about smoking, heavy drinking, and lack of exercise, but other risk factors include obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes.
So basically, taking care of your overall health is key. It's not just about preventing ED, it's about preventing a whole host of other health problems as well. Now, let's say someone is experiencing these symptoms. What's the first step? Should they just hope it goes away on its own, or is it important to see a doctor?
It's absolutely crucial to see a doctor if you're experiencing ED, especially if it's persistent or if you have other health conditions like diabetes or heart disease.
Don't just suffer in silence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doctors have a variety of tools at their disposal to diagnose ED and determine the underlying cause. They'll likely start with a thorough medical history and physical exam. They might order blood tests to check for things like hormone imbalances or signs of heart disease.
So they're really looking at the whole picture, which makes sense considering how many factors can be involved.
That's right. They might also order a urine test to look for indicators of diabetes or even an ultrasound to assess blood flow. And in many cases, they'll also conduct a mental health screening to see if depression or anxiety might be contributing to the problem.
It's like a detective investigation trying to piece together all the clues.
Exactly. And once they've identified the underlying cause, they can recommend the most appropriate treatment options.
That's a perfect segue into our next segment. Now that we've explored the complex web of factors behind ED, let's shift our focus to the arsenal of solutions available.
Great idea. There's a lot to cover, so let's dive in.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork and understand that ED isn't just some random thing that happens. There are often specific causes, both physical and mental. Now let's get to the part I'm sure everyone is waiting for, the treatments.
That's right. Let's talk solutions. The good news is there's a whole range of treatments available, and they can be tailored to the specific cause of your ED. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, which is encouraging.
That is a relief to hear. So where do we start? What are some of the most common treatment options?
One of the most well-known approaches is medication. You've probably heard of some of these names: Viagra, Cialis, Levetiracetam. They're all part of a class of drugs called PDE5 inhibitors.
Those are practically household names at this point. So how do these PDE5 inhibitors actually work?
Well, you know how we talked about blood flow being crucial for an erection? These medications work by increasing blood flow to the penis. They do this by inhibiting an enzyme called phosphodiesterase type 5, or PDE5 for short. This enzyme is responsible for breaking down a molecule called saccharic GMP, which is involved in relaxing the smooth muscles in the penis and allowing for increased blood flow.
Okay, so they're not creating the erection out of thin air. They're essentially giving your body a little help in getting things going.
Exactly, but here's the key. They don't work without sexual stimulation. You still need to be in the mood for them to be effective.
They're not magic pills, in other words.
No, not quite. And it's really important to note that they're not safe for everyone. People with certain health conditions like low blood pressure, heart issues, or those taking nitrates should not take these medications. It's crucial to talk to your doctor to determine if they're right for you.
Got it. So what if those medications aren't a good fit or don't work as well as hoped? What are some other options on the table?
Well, there are injections that can be quite effective. L-prostadil, for example, works by directly expanding the blood vessels in the penis, leading to an erection. It has a fairly high success rate.
So it's a more direct approach than the oral medications. Interesting. Is it a one-time injection or does it need to be taken regularly?
It's typically injected right before sexual activity, and it's worth mentioning that L-prostadil is also available as a cream or a suppository, but those forms tend to be less effective and can have more side effects.
Okay, so we've got pills, injections, creams, quite a variety. Are there any other tools in the toolkit, so to speak?
Absolutely. We talked about testosterone earlier. If low testosterone is the culprit behind the ED hormone therapy, it can be very effective. It helps rebalance those hormone levels, potentially improving both libido and erectile function.
Makes sense. It's all about addressing the root cause. What about those penis pumps I've heard about? Do those actually work?
Penis pumps can be a helpful option for some men. They work by creating a vacuum that draws blood into the penis, causing an erection. They often involve using a constriction ring at the base of the penis to help maintain the erection.
Wow, that's pretty ingenious. It seems like there's truly an option out there for everyone, which is really encouraging to hear.
There really is. And we haven't even touched on lifestyle changes yet, which can be incredibly impactful, especially for men who are obese or have unhealthy habits.
Right. So diet, exercise, all that good stuff. Tell me more about how those play a role in managing ED.
Well, you know the saying, you are what you eat. Turns out that applies to your sexual health, too. A diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean protein can help improve blood flow and overall health, which can positively impact ED. On the other hand, a diet high in processed foods, saturated fat, and sugar can contribute to weight gain, high cholesterol, and other health problems that increase the risk of ED.
So ditch the junk food and go for the good stuff. Got it.
Yeah.
What about exercise? What types of exercise are particularly beneficial for ED?
Aerobic exercise like brisk walking, running, swimming, or cycling is excellent for cardiovascular health. It gets
Hmm.
your heart pumping, strengthens your blood vessels, and improves blood flow throughout the body. Strength training is also important because it can boost testosterone levels, which is beneficial for libido and erectile function.
So hitting the gym and getting that heart rate up can do wonders both for your overall health and your sexual well-being.
You got it. And let's not forget about stress management. Stress is a major culprit behind ED, so finding healthy ways to manage stress is essential. Yoga, meditation, mindfulness practices, and spending time in nature can all help reduce stress levels.
Those are all great suggestions. It's so important to remember that taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. Now, we've talked about lifestyle changes, medications, injections, pumps. Is there anything else out there, or have we pretty much covered the spectrum of treatment options?
We've covered the most common approaches, but there are a couple of other things to mention. For some men, counseling or therapy can be incredibly helpful, especially if the ED is primarily rooted in psychological factors like stress, anxiety, or relationship issues.
It's all about getting to the root of the problem, isn't it? Whether it's physical, mental, or a combination of both.
Exactly. And in rare cases, when other treatments haven't been successful, surgery might be an option. This usually involves implanting a penile prosthesis, which can help achieve an erection.
Wow, that's pretty serious stuff. But it's good to know that there are options available even in those more complex cases.
Absolutely. And remember, it's crucial to have an open and honest conversation with your doctor to determine the best course of treatment for you.
Couldn't agree more. Communication is key. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that's often overlooked but is so important: prevention.
That's a great point. It's much easier to prevent ED in the first place than to try to treat it later on. So what are some steps people can take to protect their sexual health as they age?
Well, based on what we've discussed so far, it seems like a lot of the same advice applies.
Yeah.
Maintain a healthy weight, eat a balanced diet, exercise regularly, don't smoke, limit alcohol consumption.
Exactly. Those are all excellent preventative measures. It's also important to manage any underlying health conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol. And as we've emphasized, don't underestimate the power of stress management. Find healthy ways to cope with stress and prioritize your mental well-being.
It all ties together. Taking care of your overall health is the best way to protect your sexual health as well.
Absolutely. And if you do start to experience any symptoms of ED, don't hesitate to talk to your doctor. The sooner you address the issue, the better the chances of successful treatment.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground, from the physical and psychological causes of ED to the wide array of treatment options and preventative measures. I feel like I've learned a ton.
Me too. It's such an important topic to discuss openly and honestly.
I completely agree. So as we wrap up this deep dive into erectile dysfunction, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
If you're experiencing ED, you're not alone. It's a common condition, and there's no shame in seeking help. There are effective treatments available, and it's never too late to prioritize your sexual health.
That's a powerful message. It's all about taking control of your health and seeking the support you need. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this segment of our deep dive. But stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore some additional insights and resources related to ED.
Sounds good. We'll see you in part 3.
Welcome back to part 3 of our deep dive into erectile dysfunction. We've covered a lot of ground already, from the causes and risk factors to the various treatment options available. Now let's shift our focus to what you can do if you're experiencing these symptoms. The good news is, as we've discussed, there are a lot of different approaches available, and finding the right one for you often starts with a conversation.
That's right. Talking to your doctor is absolutely crucial. They can help you determine the underlying cause of your ED and guide you toward the most appropriate treatment options. It's like putting together a puzzle. They'll consider your medical history, lifestyle factors, and any other health conditions you might have to get a complete picture.
It's like having a health detective on your side. And speaking of conversations, I think it's important to acknowledge that this can be a sensitive topic to discuss even with your doctor.
You're absolutely right. There can be a lot of embarrassment or shame surrounding ED. But it's so important to remember that it's a common medical condition and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Your doctor is there to help you, not to judge you.
That's such an important point. And beyond talking to your doctor, I think it's also crucial to have open and honest communication with your partner. Sharing what you're going through can help reduce stress and anxiety, and it allows your partner to be supportive and understanding throughout the process.
Couldn't agree more. Communication is key in any relationship, but especially when dealing with something as personal and potentially impactful as ED. It can strengthen your bond and help you navigate this challenge together.
It's a team effort, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've touched on this throughout our conversation, but I think it's worth reiterating. Taking care of your overall health is one of the best things you can do for your sexual health.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
Yeah.
Maintaining a healthy weight, eating a balanced diet, exercising regularly, not smoking, and limiting alcohol consumption. These are all lifestyle factors that can significantly impact your erectile function.
It's like a ripple effect. When you prioritize your overall well-being, those positive changes extend to all areas of your life, including your sexual health.
Exactly. And let's not forget about stress management. Stress can wreak havoc on your body in so many ways, and erectile function is no exception. Finding healthy coping mechanisms for stress, whether it's exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, or talking to a therapist, can make a world of difference.
It's about finding what works for you and making those self-care practices a regular part of your routine.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And it's encouraging to see that the conversation around men's health, including sexual health, is becoming more open and less stigmatized.
I agree. It's becoming more normalized to talk about these things, which is so important. It allows men to feel more comfortable seeking help and support when they need it.
And with more research and advancements in medicine, there are more treatment options available than ever before. It's an exciting time in the field of men's sexual health, and there's a lot of hope for those struggling with ED.
That's a great point. It's not a dead end. There are solutions, and there's always room for progress. So as we wrap up this deep dive into erectile dysfunction, what's the one message you want our listeners to take away?
If you're struggling with ED, don't suffer in silence. Reach out to a healthcare professional, talk to your partner, and remember that you're not alone. There's help available, and it's never too late to prioritize your sexual health.
Well said. Knowledge is power. And taking control of your health starts with understanding the issues you're facing and seeking the support you need. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this episode of the KenkoVibe podcast. I'm Ethan Reed.
And I'm Grace Morgan.
Be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode with anyone who might find it helpful. And remember, even though we've covered a lot today, this is just the beginning of your journey toward better health and well-being. Until next time, take care.